Okay, Andrew, so what are investigators doing right now? Obviously, they're looking for a motive. They want to know more about this guy.
Yeah, so investigators, first off, safety and security is the first principle here, and looking out for those injured. So the scene itself is priority number one. But I would add that in the last hour, the Munich police handed over the case for prosecution to the Munich terrorism prosecutor. Now, this is an important development because the prosecutor for counterterrorism said there are indications of an extremist background. And if that's the case, and if it ties to, for instance, Islamic radical terrorism, as we've seen it morph in the last several years, there is an increasing trend of these types of low-tech, very high impact, high profile attacks. For instance, New Orleans on New Year's Eve.
Well, I mean, you look at this, you've got a small car, one of the smallest cars that's made, right? And it drives into a crowd. And now you have 28 people going to the hospital. The challenge that can pose, especially when you have a high profile event. Again, we don't know if it's tied to the security conference that's going to be happening. But the challenge seems to me to be significant. And again, we don't know if this guy is tied to other people who may be involved in some sort of activities, or he's a lone wolf, right?
That's right. And so the forensic investigation is the next thing. Secure the scene, begin the investigation. I do think it's an important indicator that this was handed over to the Counterterrorism, Counterviolent Extremism Prosecution Office. There may be more here than is initially seen on the television or early reporting. And frequently, early reporting can be inaccurate. So investigators are definitely parsing through all kinds of things, social media posts, communications, identifying, has this person been in touch with potential agitators, or merely viewing or reposting extremist content. So again, we don't know yet. It hasn't been publicly reported. But those are the types of things that are being investigated actively at this time.
There have been a number of incidents in our modern history, 9/11, obviously one of them, but where U.S. officials have been extremely concerned about the online bringing people into the terrorism world, right? And I wonder if we're in a place right now where there's so much tension in the world, right? We are post-COVID. A lot of people feeling isolated, scared about what's constant upheaval. Obviously, all around the world, we're seeing some insecurity in political situations. Is the sense of alert, the concern about online extremism and recruitment at a higher level than it was just a few years ago?
I think the answer is absolutely yes. And it's not just recruitment, it's inspiration, right? The name of the Al-Qaeda's old magazine was Inspire. And it was meant to proliferate things like how do you make a pressure cooker bomb that led to Boston Marathon. And I think increasingly there's going to be a difficulty in understanding what is foreign counterterrorism and what is domestic counterterrorism, particularly when someone can be a completely domestic actor and have access to these types of inspirational or self-radicalizing types of activity. So I do think that this presents a real challenge. And a lot of it's going to come down to counterterrorism efforts that get to root causes, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps this comes up at Munich about the importance of not letting counterterrorism as a national security priority fall by the wayside.
Yeah, the online radicalization is real. We're almost out of time, but I do want to ask you, obviously, with this big conference starting tomorrow, you have a number of world leaders who are going to be there, a number of top officials from the U.S. government, Secret Service is obviously there. You heard Courtney just say this is always one of the most high security events, but does it get even higher? Did they reassess their plan right now?
I mean, yes. I mean, short answer is yes. Frequently in these types of situations, and I wouldn't do anything that would indicate what changes to security might be. But after an event like this, if a security plan has been published and there maybe needs to re-coordinate, right? This is similar to the principle of if you're just a general citizen, vary your routes when you're overseas. Don't always take the exact same bus route. So I do think there will be some changes. I do think it probably will have an impact. Right now, there is no reporting that this attack was linked to the Munich Security Conference. And another thing that undoubtedly will be on the minds of German security and international security will be that there's an election in Germany coming up in the next 10 days. And so there will be polling places. There will be other activities that certainly could be vulnerable to attack.
Andrew Boreen, thank you so much.